line formation. If you go back into the teaching of the crystal production or diamond structure, I explained on a specific condition, the shape of the spherical shape of the plasma through the forces of the environment and itself internally according to the plasma current flow dictates straight line flow forces. And that straight line flow forces we see at the boundary of the what we call the hexagonal clouds on the northern hemisphere. The same thing happens in the skin of the man. The skin of man has 3 layers of gases of different densities and different plasmatic gravitational magnetic flow. So this hexagonal structure is due to 3 gas layers of different densities, plasmatic gravitational magnetic field strength densities, that leads to the creation of the shape and the structure of the skin of the man. And there is no other reasons for it, because we've seen it, replication of it, in structure of the plasma of the star systems and the planetary systems. When you look in time from a distance certain solar systems, on the outer boundary of the atmosphere, you still see the hexagonal structure, the same as Saturn. It's a normal how the matter changes and converts from one structure of the density of the gas to another. And in fact, the 3 layers and the current flow between the 3 layers, which we've seen Dr. Elia going through in depth in explaining it, it shows the current flow in a plasmatic gravitational condition in 3 densities of gases, which lead to the structure, the upper layer, which what we call the outer skin. There is no difference between the skin of the man in the outer layer and the upper atmosphere of the planet or a solar system. It's the barrier point. If you enter it the right way, you can penetrate. If you don't enter it the right way, it creates a resistance, so it bounces you off. It's the same thing as we see with the skin of man. It's a containment, and this containment over millions of years has perfected itself to a tight pack structure, what you call gas materials. There is exact similarities, but at the same time, as is the skin, you call it, has to have a decision making of its own, and at the same time has to have a control in respect to central control, what you call the brain. That's why, as Dr. Elia explained, on every inch you have up to 20 blood vessels coming to it. Because it's part of the emotional part, it dictates the survival guarantee of the existence of the, what you call the emotional part of the body of the man, and itself makes decision. In so many times, in so many ways, up to now, world of medicine doesn't understand why up to and past certain percentage of the skin burn leads to death. Because on the same structure as the emotion and the physical part and the soul connect to each other, and as one decides that it does not have enough to give, as I explained in the brain structure section, that when the physicality and the emotional part separate or interact in the opposite direction, that the separation takes place, that the physical death comes. As the skin is part of the brain structure, the same thing happens. The emotional part cannot support the physical part, and that's why with the body, what you call a 1st degree or 3rd degree burn or whatever, death occurs. Because the emotional part, containment, cannot support the physical part, and the 2 separation comes, because the neurosystem of the emotional part of the body from the containment sits on the skin of the man. The same way, Dr. Elia explained that we see the same structure as with the kidney. And if you go back to the section when we spoke about the kidney, we spoke about why kidney has that structure, and the structure is the same as is extracting emotional energy from the blood vessels, which come back to it, and it releases it as urine, as an energy level. If you go back to the teaching of the kidney, the same structure happens with the skin. Skin is another kidney work, which extracts what the body does not need in emotional level, and as with the water, adds it up to release it. That's why your odor changes according to your emotion. That's why you can smell the odor with conjunction with the sweat. Odor is gas in a gaseous state, diamond structure. So your body does exactly the skin as, because it's responsible for the emotional part, with the release of the same thing. It's a kidney inside out. But at the same time, due to the release of fields out, it absorbs huge amount of energy in from its environment. And that's why I always say 80% of the energy we absorb comes from the environment. As much as you release skin and the sweat, which is a part of the structure of the release, it has to come back in the gravity. The sweating is like the magnetical field forces, and you release so much fields out, the gravitational field forces attracts energy back in replacement, and it creates a charge difference externally and internally on what you squeeze in, and you find the pressures and the temperatures and the energies and currents which on when it's slowed down enough to the plasmatic magnetic gravitational field of electron motion in the orbit of one electron, we measure it as a current. In fact, the energy absorbed from the environment is in a plasmatic condition and is huge. So in totality, what you spread out of your body as a sweat, that creates a current flow inwards of gravitational pull, which is created not just by the skin, but by all the elements inside the body of the man. Because now the man, the body of the man internally, be it your intestine, the heart, the liver, they create their own gravitational magnetic field, which dictates absorption of the field stronger than the environment. So that's how we absorb so much energy internally towards ourselves from our environment. If you have an empty space next to you, has no interaction. It's just gases and it's in balance. But now you have the body of the man, which is billions of plasmas, as in a gaseous state, creating their own gravitational magnetic field. Now you understand why the skin is the barrier, not to allow what is not needed, and only allow out what is not needed. So this heavy mass of gans of body parts, which is covered in a sack of the skin, has a greater gravitational magnetic field in respect to the environment next to it. What does it do? Because it's a heavier mass, it absorbs fields from its environment. And that's why you, through the skin, extract 80% of the energy needed for daily life. Maybe now that explains to you why I always said that we only take up to 20% of the energy daily intake through food or air we breathe. The rest comes through what we call gravitational magnetic field strength inertia of the body of the man in respect to its environment. It's heavier, it's stronger, and what does it do? So extracts, continuously extracts energy from its environment. If it was not supposed to do, it would have been the same as itself. It would have, there was no need for the skin to cover it. The heart, the bone, the intestines, the food, the muscles, all these create a stronger field because of the density mass ratio in respect to the environment. So what does it do? It has to absorb. It has to extract energy from where it is. If you put man in a vacuum condition, energy total zero, man will die immediately, faster than stopping the breathing. Instantaneously man dies. This, in some places in the universe, is used for exclusion. What they call euthanasia, when people want to end a life. You don't do, you cut energy from the environment of the life. In deep space, when you come into the viruses which cannot be controlled, you cut the energy supply to the virus area. Virus is a kind of high density field environment, very much like a skin body of the man within the skin of the man. You don't go and spray it, you don't use pesticides or God knows whatever, or what do you call it, antibiotics. You do two things: you extract the energy from it, or you cut off the line of the energy to it. Then itself dies instantly, or converts to its own mass. So it's the same with the body of man. If in the future, when we can show, and not to create life to end, but in a position of being able to confirm the correctness, in allowing to cut the total, creating a zero field flow, you'll find out that life ends instantaneously, faster than breathing. Because digestion takes time. Air, few seconds. Environment, because it's so much dependent on it, is instantaneous. It's a silent way of execution, but very rapid. Because the body of a man, due to his mass, contained with the layer of the skin, creates literally like a potato jacket, which has a mass, and it has inertial mass of the plasma. Don't forget the word I use, inertia mass of the plasma. This is very important, because you have an inertial mass of a matter, but you have an inertial mass of a plasma, and this is applicable in space technology heavily. You increase the by number of the elements within the body, you have a higher density mass compared to environment you have, and because the structure holds to each other as a body of the man, so it means has a central gravitational field force. And if there is a central gravitational field force, so it absorbs energy from its environment too. And in that respect, the skin decides on its layer, the way we've seen hexagonal shape, what rays in what angle can enter, that satisfies the need of the energy for that environment. And according to this, we change the color of the skin.